Welcome to Admin, episode 7. We got Nick here twice today.
Here and I'm there.
Over John's shoulder.
Everywhere.
He's everywhere, guys.
Quarantine edition.
Kyle should change all the photos behind him to just photos of me.
That would be scary.
There we go.
This week we're talking about business owners during quarantine. I wanted to start it by asking, we work with a lot of business owners. We see a lot of business owners. How have you guys seen most business owners react during this time? The COVID time, if you didn't know. There's a virus going around.
Heard about it.
They're just kind of confused.
I feel like there's a fair amount of business owners that are just stopping because they don't know what to do. And then I feel like you have another set of people that, for whatever reason, are just continuing on in very, very big ways and spending more on social or doing more to sell more products or paying more just to get the stuff that they have sold. So I feel like there's two different mentalities for sure.
Kyle, what have you seen?
Either way they're going in that, they're kind of just confused, flustered, not sure what to do because everything's changed in general.
Have you been through a time like this before?
I don't think so. Not unless like Kyle's Benjamin and he's actually 120 years old.
I could see that. For sure. Obviously, we're in uncharted waters, right? We've never really been through a pandemic like this before. There's a lot of different ways that a business owner can react. Nick, you mentioned two. Kyle, you mentioned one where they're just confused. But what have we seen this force a lot of business owners to do in this time?
I don't think that they've had to adapt once. I think they have to adapt every 24 hours. It's just everything keeps on changing. And I think some that in the beginning didn't want to adapt because it wasn't affecting them had to. For sure, opening up their mind if they haven't been already there. Things are changing faster than I would.
Really, it makes them have to slow down and think, whereas they may have been just going with emotions before almost.
Yeah, I think you see a little bit more, and hopefully even coming out of this, you see a little bit more intentionality coming from either the way you operate your business or the way you make decisions. All of a sudden, what you're used to spending over here didn't really matter, but now it's very crucial to where you spend that, right?
Yeah, and even with that, I've heard from many business owners or just individual sole entrepreneurs or sole proprietor business operators that, they don't need social media, or they don't need to have a website, or they don't need to have a point of contact here. They don't need a YouTube channel. And now everybody's scrambling and it's really, really crowding a whole lot of things up because now you're trying to communicate with your audience. Is it a little bit too late? Like you're only stacking the odds against you there. And for sure, some can totally make it out of it completely fine, but I doubt that we'll ever hear again that social media isn't crucial because they've never needed it before, but within a week span, it became very, very crucial.
Kyle, you kind of run several accounts for some of our clients and everything. What have you seen traffic-wise on social media and just online presence in general throughout this kind of period?
Well, especially initially, ads were just going crazy. So I'd put out an ad, have an expectation for the outcome, and it was triple what it usually was.
In a good way or a bad way?
Triple the views or actions on them because everybody's at home on their phone. Everything's heightened a little more like that. Everything's shifted in a weird way too, to where it's like social's kind of changing every day too, just like everything else,
It's dealing with a lot of data.
Kyle, you mentioned it's even the social shifting every day. How is it shifting? What's changing throughout this period on social for some of the business owners that don't know? Maybe they didn't have a social presence at all before, and now they're trying to establish it, but it's changing every day.
So there's definitely more people on there now and more business owners who weren't before. They're seeing that they need to be. It's just really right now when people are stuck at home, you need to stay in front of them and show them who you are so that when you do open up, or if you're still open, when they actually want to come out, they see who you are, they know who you are, and you're credible, funny or fun, however you decide to portray yourself in that way.
Yeah. So we talked about, when everything really started. I mean, I know the three of us and even some of our other team really put our heads together on some of our clients and just some also fellow business owners, what they could do. So let's spend just maybe 60 seconds on the restaurant industry. How has that impacted? Maybe one of you guys jump in on how you've seen this impact the restaurant industry right now.
Well, obviously, everybody had to figure out some sort of pickup or delivery strategy if they didn't have it already, because you can't eat in.
Yeah.
But the only way that is possible is if they had takeout containers. So it's like They're not thinking through one headache, it's suddenly 30.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's really, really hard because I just feel like you have a lot of, when we see here, the businesses that are probably the most in danger is a lot of your smaller family businesses that have always been your mom and pop diner that had their consistent client base, but suddenly they didn't always do takeout, but now it's super crucial, and trying to order from whatever packaging company you're trying to get a hold of right now really isn't that easy.
And then that goes into other stuff they might not think about. Like, you have to be Googleable now. You have to have your address on there or some way of somebody actually ordering.
Hang on. Is that an actual word?
Searchable.
Googleable.
Googleable.
I like it. I think you just patented a word. Is that what it's called?
I did. Urban Dictionary.
I like it. So one cool thing we've seen somewhat in the small communities are we've really seen the small, Nick, you mentioned the really small business, the really small restaurants. I think one neat thing has been we've really seen the community gravitate towards those smaller restaurants, where they're doing everything that they can, even if they're stuck at home, to help support those small restaurants. I also think of, the mid-size, you're still a small business. I know everybody's criticizing Shake Shack and all these other companies that got the payroll protection loan, but there's, and them aside, but there's also these mid-sized companies that maybe your average person wouldn't say that's a small business. Maybe they have 50 to 100 or 200 employees. It's still technically a small business. The shift that that company has to take compared to the small mom and pop shop, it's a lot harder to make. It's a lot easier to make when you're smaller and you can make those adjustments, right? What are some of those adjustments that we've seen or helped some of those restaurants kind of make during this time?
Definitely thinking more, instead of an individual person eating there, to like family meals. We've seen a lot of people start coming up with like taco kits, enchilada kits, even bakeries that are doing something to stay interactive with their clients. They're doing DIY cookies. They give them the cookies, they give them the frosting, they can decorate it with the kids, they make it an experience. That's been super cool to see because it's a really relevant way to stay in front of your client when you really can't.
But like you said, kits is a lot of stuff where it's a bundle that they send to your house, not necessarily like you can't do a plated meal now, maybe send the ingredients and put it together yourself, or frozen pizza or whatever it may be.
So obviously nobody ever saw this coming, right? And 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, nobody's going to see the next thing coming, right? That's part of the way life is. The businesses that we've seen adapt to this change, how does somebody prepare themselves to adapt to maybe not another pandemic, but the market is always shifting. How does a company stay in a spot to be able to shift and take advantage of that?
I don't know if it's a place that you're at to be able to make the move. I think it's just, more than anything, it's just the mindset to do it. Talking to a local business owner here who their family has, I think, 5 restaurants. They chose to keep 3 of them closed because those 3 are just your small diners. Your average plate price is $7 to $12. It's not worth it to try to package that up. Yeah. But the other 2, so then they took all the food that was at those 3 and brought it over to the other 2. Then they started reaching out to restaurants that were losing. Because if you think about it, I don't know that too many people are getting like high-end steaks delivered to their house right now. But like restaurants that like have $50,000 worth of meat, they're suddenly in danger of like losing a lot of money. So being able to adapt and knowing, okay, network, like how can I do this? We're going to move vegetables here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. It has to be a mindset more than anything.
No, I think you're right. And I don't want to spend too long, but let's dive into that mindset real quick. For business owners that, right now they're in survival mode, right? But let's fast forward 60, 90 days even. When we're out of the woods, we're going to continue. The businesses are going to open back up. The economy will pick it back up. It always does. That mindset, how can you learn that mindset? Or what are some things that are in that mindset for a business owner to have and to remember 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now when something else unpredictable comes? What are some things you think consist of that mindset?
For sure, thinking about your customer. I think a lot of businesses that are going to struggle immediately are the ones that are worried about how they're handling it. Then you've already lost in a sense. If you're not worried about how your customer's handling it, that's huge. And second of all, like a huge part of that mindset is the relationship. You are not just a place that feeds people. Why does it only have to be that? Why can it not be an experience? Like the restaurants that are winning right now are the ones that have had that relationship, that small feel that they know people's names. We're using restaurants as a lot of examples right now, but even business in general. The businesses that are going to have a lot of trouble right now are the ones that were barely making it just because they're not good businesses. Yeah. Those are the ones that are immediately going to go out. And we're not even talking about the hoop that they're going to jump through, because how many Americans are without jobs now? Is it 12 million? That number is crazy. And people are home. They're making their own coffee. They're tutoring their own kids. They're not going to the movies. They're figuring out how to play outside. We're teaching them to stay home right now. So it's huge to try to figure out what that needs to be to stay in front of your actual customer, to provide value to them. Because eventually when the husband does get another job and then they are going to start spending again, have you stayed in front of them long enough as the restaurant that they knew that they're going to go eat out with you, or that you did some way to stay in front of their kids, to engage them something that when they're doing a family outing, they want to go to your recreational place, they want to go to your trampoline park?
Yeah.
That's huge.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and that when you're in a thriving economy and you're just going, it's easy to just look at the production side. It's easy to just look at numbers and keep going and going and going. The people that are going to come out right now, whether it's on top or just come out, period, are the people that understand, one, their customer, and two, what their value actually is to the customer. I think there's a lot of times that we, as business owners, think we understand what we're giving to our customers, and it's a meal, it's nutrients, and that might be a part of it. If we really had to dive down all of a sudden now and say, there's a million other ways somebody could get that, why were they coming to me? The actual value that I was providing to them was what? And now that's what's super important, right? Is what is that value? People that understand what value they were providing to their customer, that is what can shift, right? The product could change, the service could change or shift real easy if you understand the value and the service that you're providing to your client.
And as a business owner, that ship already sailed. If you haven't gone through that process for your business and you've been surviving, kudos to you. How can we adapt right now? And the thing about it is taking the country, for example, we're not getting a lot of answers about this virus because everybody that could give us these answers are busy helping handle the virus. You're currently running your business, not necessarily worrying about how to stay in front of your customer in the future. But if we don't somehow figure out this way to do this, if this does come back in the fall, how are we suddenly not going to be ready for that? Hopefully actively learning in the current situation we're in, and just being able to understand that right now is the time when you can ask a company like agency, a company like whatever's nearby to you, reach out to us if you have questions, ask questions, because right now to get that network, and even if you don't need it, if your business is thriving, you've kept all your employees, everything's perfect, it's going fine, good for you. Still get in that network, because when it does hit the fan again, it's a lot easier to have somebody that you already have a relationship with that's going to pick up the phone when they see your name.
Yeah, I think that's super important for people to understand, is that come out of this, because I do think most businesses can come out of this. Like most of your businesses that are prepared, real entrepreneurs, real small businesses, like they'll figure out a way. That's how they got in business. That's how they're going to stay in business. Yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, it's going to affect them. But now is when you need to figure out, what am I actually providing to my customer or my consumer? What is actually important to them during this time? And we're going to see, whether the virus comes back in a different form or not, we're going to see a massive shift in the way we operate, period. There's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of companies, they're not going to operate the same way they used to. They can't. They're going to have to shift. And knowing what your value is and what that service is going to put you ahead of that curve.
I think it's crazy. It's very interesting to look at the amount of data that is going to be coming out soon, just because during this, what did people suddenly cancel? What revenue is going to go down? But Costco is going to be tripled because everybody was shopping there. Like, why did they shop there? How did they handle that? Like, there's definitely going to be a really interesting data segment that's going to go on for probably 12 months, that just really seeing how it handled it and hopefully preparing people to figure it out in the future. But there's a lot going on still. And the thing is, we don't know how long it still goes.
We talked a little bit about that, the mindset behind it, knowing your value, knowing your customer, right? And we've talked about that since day one. You got to know your customer. You got to know what's important to them, and you got to know what value you're providing to them. Now let's get a little more specific on the marketing side of things, right? One interesting thing that I've seen take place is a lot of businesses operated and had funds going to certain things that now you don't have certain funds. If you're a restaurant or if you're a small business, you used to have funds to operate your dining room or to operate this, and now you don't have funds going there anymore, right? How important is it for them to redirect those funds, and where do those funds need to be redirected to?
Yeah, that's really hard, just because I feel like it's so individualized for so many businesses. But I think what a business owner shouldn't do right now I understand cutting spending on certain things. That completely makes sense to me if you feel like you need to hang on to the cash. I know that there's loans in place to be able to help a lot of businesses, that they're trying to make it a lot easier. And I guess I would tell a lot of business owners, don't be afraid to take a loan. You don't have to take the full amount. If it sits there and you give it back, that's fine. But with that, if you're able to redirect into a way that, who knows, like it maybe entirely grows a new form of your business. Suddenly, maybe you're not having as many people dine in. You're only having 50% of people dine in the future, but you're making double the money on it. It's making them adapt very, very quickly.
So what are some, Kyle, jump in here. What are some things, where can they spend that money now? So maybe they're not opening up the dining room, or they're not opening up their office room or their waiting room, or, whatever it is. Where can they redirect those and see some sort of tangible result because of the shift that we're seeing here?
Well, obviously, figuring out what your strategy is to get in front of those people or deliver to them, whatever it may be. Like gyms, all of a sudden, what are they going to do? Nobody can go in there. So let's figure out how to have an online class. Hair salons, all of a sudden, there's a bunch of people out there with braids that last 2 weeks, and they got to figure out how to maintain them themselves at home.
Yeah, like maybe that's doing like a touch-up kit for your hair. Like instead of having, so then you have like a 2-week give there, or maybe like a gym is able to put the money into having an online class, because then they don't have as many people. And they don't have to charge $75 a month. They only charge $45. Those classes are only online.
Yeah, we talked about it already, but one thing a small business owner can do is understand your audience and understand what's important to them. If you're a gym owner, what's important to those people that came into your gym every day? One of the things that most people may not think of is the community part of it. How are you going to incorporate the community part of it when you can't go in the same room or the same building as each other? It's possible, but it's a different way than what they've built out so far. So I think number one is understand your audience, understand what's important to them. And two is you got to get that message to them now, right? So if you were a business that prided, hey, everybody, our experience is here. Come to this restaurant, come to the gym. You're going to feel this way. It's going to make you whatever it is, right? Whatever your product or service is. Now, all of a sudden, you've got to take that and say, okay, here's what was important to my customer, number one. Number two, how do we achieve that still via either virtually or in another way in the same exact thing? And then you got to get that message to those people.
That's a few steps there, but I mean, I see a lot that are doing Facebook Lives, but why couldn't you do a Zoom call? Because then you suddenly have everybody together, that they're all working out together. Take a barber, for instance. He could even hop on and give tips on how to cut your own hair, get 8 of his clients in on there, and suddenly it's the community thing again of not, I'm individualized, I have a relationship with this business. No, it's a community. These other people also like this company. I appreciate them a little bit more now. Well, I've even seen like a bunch of restaurants that, and I don't know why they're not doing it, but like they're sending home like these like takeout kits or like make your own drink kits, but they're not doing any videos on how to make the drinks or actually how to make the food. Like you could engage them one more time, having them watch that tutorial. So then the next time they think about making tacos, John from such and such restaurant taught us when we went through whatever.
Yeah. And it keeps you in front of them. I think that, again, it goes back to what we're really saying is your mindset's got to be in the right place. You got to be able to shift. You got to understand your customer and what you really are providing to them and what's really valuable. If you can know those two things, then from that point, it's not a matter of reinventing your whole business. It's just a matter of shifting and saying the business is the same, our why is the same, the value is the same, our how and our what we do may change, but our why isn't. That doesn't change. Our why is still the same, but how we're actually going to do that is going to change. And that's okay. It's just a different model. It might be a different method of marketing to the people. It might be a different message that you're putting across to them. But your why, if you got your why in place, it should be the same. And if you have it and it's clear, that part shouldn't change. It should just be a matter of, this is our why. We're in business to help small business owners focus on what's important right now. And the way we do that used to be maybe person-to-person meetings. Okay, great. We can achieve that over a Zoom call as well. Does it take more time? Is it maybe a little bit different? Yeah, but everybody's going through a different phase here. So what used to be really, really weird, all of a sudden Zoom calls aren't that weird anymore. A majority of every business owner has been through a Zoom call already. And before this period, nobody hardly even knew what a Zoom was. So I think it's just the ability to know your why, what your value is that you provide. And then the shift from there is just, okay, let's look at the market. Let's look at where it's going. Let's talk to some other people. How can we leverage that and still reach our audience at the same exact time? I think that's all I got.
Yeah. For business owner to just be vulnerable. Like maybe you might go through your why right now and you understand that maybe your heart isn't in what you have been doing, it's a really good time to adapt. Suddenly, if you wanted to do something different, it's going to be a lot easier coming through this, the start of business. Being able to listen to your gut instinct, and be vulnerable to what you quote unquote don't know, and just be willing to adapt is definitely huge.
Yeah. And I think it'll lead into what we're going to cover next week. And next week, I want to dive into, or our next podcast, I want to dive into content marketing versus advertising. We've all seen the ads that come up there and say, hey, buy my product, hurry, I need somebody to buy my product quick. I'm a small business that's going through a pandemic, and I'm not going to make it, versus a business that for the last 2 or 3 years has done content marketing, and they know their audience, they know where they are, they know exactly what they want, and they've got them right there. They've got their attention already.